Hi, I'm licensed marriage family therapist Josh Hudson, and today we are breaking down famous couple scenes from movies and TV in therapy. Let's jump in.
So how was your night?
My husband found himself in a very traumatic shark situation.
Here we go.
As we were planning to go to the waterfall and have a romantic evening, because as you know, we don't do that very often because of the kids and work. But somehow this crazy traumatic shark experience was enough to make him neglect his wife.
Ronnie.
So one thing I would actually call out there is she's speaking in third person. She said, make him neglect his wife. Instead, I would have the client say, hey, I would like you to phrase that in first person, say, he neglected me, right? That's a form of depersonalization and it minimizes the emotional weight. And so you always wanna really have couples in therapy session really focus on, I feel this because of that, or me, or my, right? By doing that, you're owning your own emotions instead of displacing what happened. And I would also call out, Vince Vaughn's nonverbal language here, but let's go a little bit more into the scene, see what happens.
David, how did that make you feel?
I know my truth.
Excuse me?
I know my truth.
Did you say I know my truth? Oh, boy.
Obviously, you would want to explore that a little bit. Someone says something more conceptual in nature and it's not really specific. You want to dive more into what that means, not just saying, oh boy, and writing it on your pad. That's kind of very indirect as a therapist. It's a big no-no.
Sometimes we forget how to do the easiest thing in the world, which is just to talk to each other. Okay, let's start here. Lucy, you go first. I want you to look at Joey and say hi. And Joey, after you've heard that, I want you to look back at Lucy and say hello in return. And then we'll just see where it goes from there, okay?
Hi.
Hello.
Actually using skills building or in-person role play is actually a really common and good technique to use in therapy sessions. You oftentimes want to preface it with a little bit more than just see where it goes. But yeah, because what happens is that through those normal interactions with couples, you'll see a lot of the problems will start to surface just from a normal conversation. And there, the therapist has a really good entry point to interject and act as a referee, even though it's not the best approach, which I'll tell you more about later, but it is a decent approach to really identify surface level issues, then go deeper.
Now, it's my fault that you don't feel satisfied.
Everything is my fault? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying
crazy.
that.
You don't look at me. You don't ever ask me how I am.
You haven't looked at me in 10 years.
I'm crazy and everything is my fault and my family is awful and nothing at all is your fault. Because you rock, Joey.
If a guy talked to me like that, I'd punch him in the face.
Oh, you're such an asshole!
You're an asshole!
So as a therapist there, you do want to interject if things get too heated, because if both you and your spouse get to this emotional flooding where all the blood starts flushing out to your limbs, you're ready for fight, flight, or freeze. Obviously, they're going into fight, all the accusations and lack of responsibility, nothing gets resolved. So you want to, as a good therapist, to cut that off.
Hello, Calvin. Hey.
Oh, shit!
Jeez, what's the matter?
Holy shit. Get behind me. Get behind me.
What?
It's okay, Maggie. It's okay. Just relax. This is a very common reaction in the therapeutic process.
It is? What?
It is. It absolutely is. Calvin, this is a very safe place. Please sit down.
This is not a safe place.
No, honey.
No, this is most definitely not a safe place. Me and my wife are leaving. Let's go.
No. You are gonna sit down and we are gonna go through this therapeutic process together as a couple.
I'm fine.
Sit down.
Fine.
Thank you.
Fine.
Okay, guys. Well, why don't we start off with a little bit of word association?
Okay. This is exciting. I've heard this can really open a couple up.
Maggie, I'm going to offer you a word and you respond however you're moved to from here.
Okay.
Word association is more of a psychodynamic approach, or psychoanalytic, excuse me. And you don't usually use it with couples, it's more individuals, and it's more kind of an older style. The purpose of word association, it's kind of like those ink blot tests. You show how the people perceive a neutral word. Like if you have the word, let's say love, and then one person's like pain, and the other person's like pleasure. That alone, that neutral word, you could see how people perceive that neutral word, and it gives more insight into the way people perceive reality. So it's helpful, but it's kind of outdated.
Black.
White.
Water.
Ocean.
Sunshine.
Happy.
I'm very impressed, Maggie.
Really?
You're very in tune.
Very in tune.
Again, as a therapist, when you use kind of a neutral word association, you wouldn't reinforce or praise the client, but Hollywood.
Calvin, you're next.
I do not want to do this.
Relax, Calvin. There are no wrong answers. Up.
down. What is that? What are you writing in your book?
It's fine. Don't freak out.
Nobody's freaking out. I just don't understand the rules to the game.
How are things between you sexually?
Oh. Uh-oh.
We haven't had sex.
Oh, no. Ben has a little bit of problem.
I don't have a problem.
Yes, you do.
No, I do not
Yeah.
have a problem.
It's a big problem.
I do not have a
You
problem.
have a problem.
Look, wait a minute. The one night that we even thought about getting close to having sex, all right, she up and decides she's going to nickname my...
Penis?
Yeah. Princess Sophia. Huh? You want to talk about shooting a man's horse? Wah!
I thought...
Come on.
As funny as this scene is, my personal opinion is that sex actually is a good context or environment to explain and understand the dynamics between a couple. Now, how confident someone is for asking for what they want, how they communicate during sex, are the other person's needs being met, the boundaries, saying no or yes. Sex is a really good entry point to understanding the larger kind of context, the meta relationship in general. So actually exploring sex, and as a therapist, if you have that good experience to do so, it's a good way to really analyze the relationship in total.
I thought
Come on.
it was a beautiful name.
I see, Benjamin. And when was it that you first realized that you were attracted to other men?
Oh,
What?
That's serious.
Benjamin, this is a safe space.
Look, it's just simple. I like women, okay? It just happened that way.
Methinks thou doth protesteth too much.
You see, stop it. This is shit I'm talking about. What the hell is that?
What did I do?
Whoa, what? I mean, this is what she does. Stop that.
You know, I'm
You know, I hate this term because it gets overused so much, but what Kate Hudson is doing there is gaslighting Matthew McConaughey a lot and saying his reality doesn't exist. And yeah, it's a big, big red flag when someone's doing that in session.
You know, I'm hearing a lot of latent anger here, Benjamin.
Rageaholic.
I'm not a rageaholic.
I called
Stop.
that one.
You know what? Take a deep breath for me, Ben. Okay, let it go. Just let it go. Yeah.
I feel better.
Okay. Come here. I've seen this before. I've seen it many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, would you two like to be left alone?
No.
Maybe you should get a room. You are hitting on our shrink.
Funny joke again, but actually I get an email every single month with therapists that lose their license. And the number one cause of a therapist losing their license is sleeping with their client. And it happens, unfortunately. And the reason why it breaches ethical laws, besides the obvious, is clients oftentimes, they come into us, it's a vulnerable space, right? And they're oftentimes projecting their emotions onto us. And it's the first time that they felt safe and understood by someone. So a lot of those feelings of safety and security for the first time on someone listening get projected onto the therapist, and the therapist can utilize those feelings to take advantage of the client. And that's why it's a big no-no to ever do that.
And you are a pathological flirt.
Jesus, 5 seconds ago I'm gay. Now I'm a pathological flirt?
I sweat when I get nervous.
Which one is it, Andy? Hell, besides, why would I need to hit on another woman? You've got more than enough personalities to keep me completely occupied.
That was hurtful. Okay. Ben, are you ashamed of Andy?
Of course
not
he is.
ashamed.
Of course he is.
I'm not
You
ashamed.
are. How do you think that
I'm not
makes me
ashamed
feel?
of you.
It's like when I talked to his mother. He
Yeah.
freaked out.
No, you did that behind my back. She did behind my back.
I just wanted to say hi.
The hardest thing about joint couples therapy is you have two completely different realities. And as a therapist, you have to ascertain whose experience is kind of objective truth. And really, as a therapist, you're not trying to ascertain that too much. You want to get the general truth, and then you want to say how they felt in the position, how the other person felt in the position, and then share that joint reality amongst each other and come to a conclusion. The issue lies in that when we get emotional, our literal prefrontal cortex, that empathy center of seeing the other person's perspective, shuts down, and we get defensive. We don't care about the other person's position. We feel right because our ego says so, and that's what creates a lot of problems in couples.
Which is what I thought we learned in high school.
So you are high school sweethearts. I picked up on that early. Please continue the dialogue.
One thing you actually want to take notice here is the body language of both people when they sit down. Oftentimes, if a couple first comes to sit down, if they're sitting next to each other or further apart, where the eyes go, the nonverbal facial expressions, those micro expressions speak volumes about how the person feels about the other partner.
I feel like sometimes he's not even trying anymore. Like this isn't even worth saving.
Oh, okay. Well, sometimes I feel like that we should be more like the Yangs.
Or maybe I should be more like your beautiful Zook.
Oh, go yourself.
You go
okay.
So selfish.
All right. It's a lot of given all these strong feelings.
It's actually good to the therapist to actually interject and stop from that demon dialogue that arises oftentimes when both couples or both partners get really riled up and go into that emotional flooding we talked about.
Why don't you hold hands?
Okay.
I'm not doing that.
Do you see?
Reach out your hand. He's literally reaching out for you.
You won't hold my hand.
I'm not doing that.
I kind of needed to do it.
You won't hold my hand. You got to interlock it, though. If you don't interlock it, it's not hand holding.
You never really want to force physical contact. And even though this is humorous, most oftentimes in my personal experience working with couples, usually one person wants to be there and the other one actually doesn't. And in most cases with the husbands I help, the wife is actually the one that pulled away and the husband's trying to bring the wife to therapy. So you may be asking yourself, why does the person who doesn't want to go to therapy, why do they actually go? It's actually pretty sneaky. They actually go to therapy to reconfirm and act in a way to prove to even the therapist, hey, even this expert is agreeing that we cannot work this out. It's pretty insidious, but it happens a lot.
Might as well just be friends and not partners.
Nice, right?
Okay, you see this? This is strong. What I want to be able to have is this. Is this. I want to be able to have that same thing in like without actually having to do it.
Are you embarrassed of your partner?
No, not at all. Okay, and why the guys ganging up on me?
So most relationships, you have the pursuer, the anxious type, then you have the avoiding, the one that pulls away. So Jonah Hill's character is clearly the anxious one. He wants to work on the relationship, engage in the physical contact, where Channing Tatum's character, he wants to be the avoidant and he feels smothered. And it actually is a common trope where the anxious person gets paired up with an avoidant, and this cycle occurs where the anxious feels that there's not enough intimacy, so they chase out, and then the avoidant person feels smothered, so they pull away, and this whole cycle perpetuates until they break up. And that cycle will continue in the next relationship, unless there's a healing of trauma in that attachment wound.
I would have to say it's his anger. I mean, he goes from 0 to 100 in a second flat.
Come on.
Do you feel this is an accurate assessment, Larry?
So that's good from the therapist to interject immediately and ask the other spouse, the husband, Ari Gold's character, if that's an accurate assessment.
Very calm guy. I mean, whether I'm a very calm person. All right, whether I'm at work or in a social situation, I am extremely calm. But my wife, who I love very dearly, she likes to nag, and I react to the nagging.
Overreact.
Then another kind of example you'll see is one person wants to be there and the other person doesn't, but they still want the relationship to work. And that person will be the placater. They'll say, oh, there's no problem. It's just, she's just overreacting, blah, 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 blah. We're fine. And again, that is far from the truth. You want to hear the words, understand their perspective, but obviously if one person feels there's a huge issue and the other person doesn't, that is actually a big problem.
Sometimes, okay, maybe, but without the nagging, no reaction.
Well, what he calls nagging, I call trying to have a relationship.
So this is actually a really common issue. You'll say one partner will be like, well, if they didn't criticize me, I wouldn't avoid or get defensive. And this person says, well, if you didn't avoid me and get defensive, I wouldn't have to constantly nag you. And so it's this battle between the egos again, where it's like, well, if you didn't do this, I didn't do that. But it's kind of a circular pattern. It doesn't matter who stops, but if one person changes, the whole pattern changes. And most often the woman is the one that nags, but it's called criticism. Most commonly you would see the woman be the one that does offer criticism, but it goes back to that attachment avoidance style where the anxious attachment person is usually the one that is feeling, well, always anxious, so there's always an issue, so there's always something they want to solve.
Look, there's no proverbial judge sitting on a bench judging you.
Ari, I told you to turn that off.
I did turn it off, but this is the emergency line. This is the bat line, baby.
Do you need to get that?
I do need to take this, yes.
No, he doesn't. I asked for 1 hour out of a day for his undivided attention. And I can't even have that.
She actually has a good point. Most often you'll hear a woman say that she'd rather have an hour of undivided attention than 7 or 8 hours of scattered attention. And the fact that Ari wants to answer in session, it's an emergency, is again a symptom of the deeper issue that I would address personally as a therapist.
Have it if you want to live in Agora fucking Hills and go to group therapy, but if you want a Beverly Hills mansion and you want a country club membership and you want 9 weeks a year and a Tuscan villa, then I'm gonna need to take a call when it comes in at noon on a motherfucking Wednesday.
That is a common issue. I'll hear so many men say, like, if you don't want me to work so much, you're not gonna get all these things that you love. And I personally, actually, with my girlfriend, it's actually a common thing that we talk about, but there is a correct way around it. You set personal boundaries. You set appropriate boundaries that you guys agree on, which is what they're struggling with, which is why they're in therapy.
I like to start by saying that every marriage is savable. You just need two people who are willing to work at it, okay? Mike, Amy, I want you to look at each other and say 3 things that you like about each other.
I've actually used that in therapy myself. It's actually a good way to start couples therapy. It gets the person, the context of the minds of both the husband and wife. They want to jump into the problem story, why we're here, the issues. So you want to prime that with some positive stuff to kind of soften the blow of all the negative emotions that are definitely going to occur in that session.
Can I go second?
Okay, yeah, sure. Amy?
Okay, Mike, I like that you gave me my children. I like that you pick them up from school sometimes. It's actually really helpful. And I like that you came to therapy today.
Okay, Mike, your turn.
Okay. I like.
So those are good ways, but I would, as a therapist, I would challenge her and say, those are good things that he does. How does that relate to his personal character? You want to tie back those behaviors to something who he is. That's what makes a compliment really good. It's like, I like this specific thing you do because it shows me that you are courageous, have integrity, wise, etc.
You're spaghetti. And you make pretty good calzone. Was that 3?
Kind of stereotypical here. I know their trope they're going for, but to give a little bit of value to that trope, I'll talk to guys on these calls when I first work with them, and I ask, why are you trying to save your marriage? And they're like, well, because it means everything to me. How would you feel if you saved it? I feel great. And that's nothing against, I'm not attacking men. We just, it's just the way guys are. This is great, I feel good. Like we don't use most of us don't use a lot of deep, insightful, articulate words to describe our emotions. It's just, I feel good, I feel great, and that's all right.
That was like 1 and then 1A. You know what? Let's try some role playing. All right, Amy, I want you to pretend to be Mike. And Mike, I want you to pretend to be Amy. Okay? And now I just want you to just tell me about your day.
Hi, I'm Amy. All I did today was rub lotion on my face and talk.
Okay. Amy, would you like to?
Yes, I would. Hey, I'm Mike. My life is awesome because my wife takes care of everything in the world for me.
This is the problem. Here's the bottom line. She's a perfectionist. So what's the point of even trying?
How is that a problem?
And she hasn't given me a blowy since my birthday 5 years ago.
Are you
She showed her how cool.
Hold on.
I've actually had in session where that role play scenario, playing to other people, it's a really emotional, it gets volatile, it really does, because you see how the other person sees you, and they're gonna point out, if they're upset with you, which if you're in therapy, they probably are, they're gonna point out a lot of the flaws in yourself that are blind spots to you, and it's gonna cause a lot of volatile emotions. So again, pretty accurate. Now, I know this isn't a couple scene, but Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite movies, and it's also a therapy scene. And rest in peace, Robin Williams, one of my favorite actors. We're gonna go through it though, because it's gonna be good.
What is it? This is your file. I have to send it back to the judge for evaluation.
Oh. Hey, you're not gonna fail me, are you? What's it say?
You wanna read it?
Why? Have you had any experience with that?
20 years of counseling. Yeah, I've seen some pretty awful shit.
I mean, have you had any experience with that?
Personally, yeah, I have.
Sure ain't good.
My father was an alcoholic. Mean fucking drunk. He'd come home hammered, looking to wail on somebody. So I'd provoke him so he wouldn't go after my mother and little brother. Interesting nights were when he wore his rings.
Sometimes clients will ask you about your personal life, and when it comes to self-disclosure, it's actually pretty simple. A lot of therapists, they will either say nothing about themselves because they're afraid of hearing from their professor in college, never self-disclose, or they'll tell way too much about themselves, and there's a lot of transference and blurring of boundaries between the professional relationship. And the only time you should self-disclose about your personal life is if it benefits the client somehow. And in this scenario, he's seeking connection to feel more validated and normalized in his abuse and trauma. And so this is actually really appropriate as a therapist to say a little bit about what happened in your personal life to connect more with the client.
Yeah, he used to just put a wrench, a stick, and a belt on the table and just say choose.
Well, I gotta go with the belt there, Vanna.
I used to go with the wrench.
Why the wrench?
Because fuck him, that's why.
Your foster father.
Yeah. So, you know, what is it, like Will has an attachment disorder? Is it all that stuff? Fear of abandonment? Is that why I broke up with Skylar?
I didn't know you had.
I did.
You want to talk about it?
No.
You know, when it comes to diagnosis, there was actually 2 schools of thought in my grad program. The department head, he was very pro-diagnosis, you know, put people into boxes and, you know, they're depressed or they're anxious. You could tell by my sentiments how I feel about that. And then the creator of the program actually said that, you know, people are more than these labels we put them on. And a label or diagnosis, it does help people give a framework for like, oh, this is why I suffer with this thing. I now know a way to treat it. I get the benefits of that, but oftentimes there's an overdiagnosis and it really causes people to feel limited in who they are. And for me personally, what I've seen is the thing that shapes your behavior more than anything else is the identities, the labels you put on yourself. And if you're saying like, oh, I'm an attached person, or I have an attachment disorder, or I'm depressed, I'm anxious, most often it's harder to overcome those things because you identify with that thing and who you are.
It's not your fault.
Don't fuck with me, all right? Don't fuck with me, Sean, not you.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
That gets me every time. A funny story. In grad school, I was working with someone who had some trauma, and I didn't go to that extreme, but I did say it's not your fault. And my therapist mentor in the program, he said, we recorded our sessions and the clients knew about it. And he said, did you say that because of Good Will Hunting? What? I've never seen that movie before. What are you talking about? What's Good Will Hunting? Should I watch it? Yeah, I've used that before. And I mean, oftentimes when it comes to trauma, we, as kids, you know, we can't differentiate between something happening to us and it happening because of us. We're so egocentric that we are blind to the fact that these traumas and these things that happen to us that cause us to doubt our own worth weren't necessarily our fault. And consciously, you can know that, like, yeah, like I know my dad's not being home and beating me and him being an alcoholic, my mom, you know, being preoccupied, or my dad leaving the family. Like, I know it's not my fault, but there was like an arrested development. Like your brain has like a stunted growth in that moment. That's what trauma happens in the brain that way. And you can actually, if done correctly with a lot of practice and experience, go back to those past events and reorient the way you see it, the perspective, and it's really cathartic and healing. Like so. Thanks for watching the video. If you guys have other suggestions for other videos that you want me to review, or movies, therapy breakdowns, or any couples breakdowns, let me know. And thanks for watching. Smash like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.